Hello, I'm Barbara, and I, together with Erin, are the directors of the Hawk Meadow Montessori School. Welcome to Finding Your Place in the World, Cosmic Education. In Montessori, the first plane of development is from birth to around 6 years of age. This is a time of the absorbent mind. It's a time where children seem to soak up the world around them like a sponge. During this time, children are sensitive to movement, language, order, the senses, small objects, and concrete experiences. They crave physical independence. The second plane of development is during the ages of 6 to 12. Students in this plane are sensitive to abstraction, imagination, morality and justice, culture, and peer interactions. They crave intellectual independence. Tonight, we will see some of the ways Montessori children learn about the world around them and their place in it. We call this cosmic education. An important part of cosmic education is storytelling, and in Montessori, we do this in the form of 5 great lessons. The great lessons start with the whole, or in this case, the universe, and work toward the parts, which include individual cultures, history, geography, and natural sciences. This gives the child a foundational sense of perspective. Within the big picture of the universe, everything the child learns is connected. Children can use this big picture perspective to mentally organize new information. When understood as connected parts of a whole, the information gains importance and captures the child's interest, which is an essential part of learning. Now, we're going to start with the primary program, which is run by Leslie and Juliana, and we're going to see how the groundwork is laid and the pathways are opened. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie, and together with Juliana, we're the teachers for the primary program here at Hawk Meadow. So happy you could be here this evening to talk a little bit about how in primary we set up the framework for the children to get ready to move on to the education, the cosmic education, and the great lessons that they get over in lower and upper elementary. So how do we set that framework? One of the ways, as Barbara mentioned, is that we're talking about their place in the universe and their place in their culture. And one of the things that many of you may be already familiar with is our sun and our Earth around the sun birthday celebration. It is one of the first ways that children get the idea that we are on the Earth and that the Earth travels around the sun. And we actually have the months of the year set up when we celebrate their birthdays, and we celebrate each year. And they absolutely love, being the holder of the globe as they walk their way around and go back to the month that they were born. So that's their first introduction to Earth and space that really is just a regular Montessori centerpiece. From there, what we do is really trying to get the idea that where is Earth in space. We start learning some songs about how the Earth spins around and the moon goes around the Earth once a month and the Earth goes around the sun. So if I were the sun and we were in North America, in New York State, right now the sun would be shining and it would be morning. And as that Earth spins around, Asia is looking at the sun, and it's time to wake up in Asia, and it's time to go to bed in North America, which is where we live. So they really love that idea. You can see the light bulb going off, and it clicks. This little globe is one of the Montessori really geniuses in that it's color-coded by continent. And that color coding carries through other learning that I'm going to show you today. But it really helps them get the idea that South America is pink, North America is orange, Europe is red, Africa's green, Asia is yellow, and don't forget Australia, which is brown, and Antarctica. So one of the things we did today to help reinforce that is we took some Play-Doh, and we made our Earth, and then we flattened it out to show them how does that possibly become a map? So we flattened it, and that was how they got the feel for how Asia is actually connected. There's a little piece of Asia over there in North America. And they had some fun. One of our students decided that this was Pangea because everything ended up connected. So again, they're getting the idea of the development of the geology of the Earth. So along with that, they did some drawings, again, using their colored pencils to match up the color scheme. So along with space, I just wanted to touch upon a couple of other things that Barbara mentioned. That there's the biology. We spent some time talking about the human body. We also talk about earth science. We have our rocks and our shells, which they love outside. We have a huge collection as well. We're so lucky we get to spend so much time outside, and it really helps get the beginnings of that earth science education. In addition, we have a little chemistry where, when you mix colors, you see how, red and yellow make orange. And so that's just the beginnings of chemistry lessons that they get. Later on this year, we are going to be doing, we do vinegar and baking soda with a balloon, and they love to see the fizzing and the balloon. That's like one of the first, science experiments, and that is, their chemistry lessons. So in addition to that, we have the physics with the magnetic things that are magnetic and things that aren't. So, a lot of hands-on where, just that they're learning about the power of the magnetic force. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the amazing maps that we do have and how they're color coded. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a tiny color coding. So when you see pink, they know that this is going to be the map of South America. And if you see red, it's going to be Europe. Yep, we're in the right place. That's good. All right, and that carries over onto our shelf work. We have the pin pushing. Somebody today did the continent of Africa, and the color is green. Fantastic work for their fingers. Helps with the strengthening for the pencil. And from that, one of our students made their very own world map. They glued the pin pushing, they did the labeling, and the watercoloring. And you can just imagine the pride they take in completing something so beautiful. And just starting to realize, where are we? Here we are. We're there in New York, in North America. So from there, another student moved on from the pin pushing to tracing. So that's a little tougher skill, and really just some beautiful tracing here. And that also is such a great way to gain confidence and pride in a beautiful completed work. Once one of the children sees these things being done, it's been snowballing here in the classroom. I don't know if you can show them. We have one student, if you look at the door, who's going to do each continent. He's done North America and South America. He's working right now on Asia, which is quite the job. And then we have two students together who worked on Australia. So it's really becoming, a huge learning experience. And we also have our flags. Some of you may have had your children bringing home some flags. They choose the flag and then they color it. And it really gives them that feel for how many countries there are in this great planet. We've also got some booklets they put together. These are the animals of each continent. Again, so you see the yellow, you know it must be Asia. Oh, and there's the Komodo dragon. And these booklets match up with our continent work. Oh, there's that Komodo dragon again. So we have a really great flow in their matching, labeling, and learning. It just reinforces that there's so much diversity. This is a really fun. We have this measuring tape, which again is color coded by continent. I don't know if you guys can see, but for example, if we measure, a lot of our kids are right around 40 inches. 40 inches tells us that's the same size as the wingspan of a prairie falcon, which is amazing to me that it's that big. And the prairie falcon is written in orange, so that means prairie falcons are found in North America. And if we wanted to see something from Asia, we've got a viper. And so just a really interesting way to introduce them to measurement. And they love to see how tall they all are and what animal relates to their height. And that's that. And last week we learned about Diwali, the celebration of Diwali, and some of you got your divas brought home today. And they decorated them and they learned about the celebration. So all of these things combine, to give the children just the foundations for learning, where they are in space, time, and culture. We this month we're highlighting South America. This is a bingo game. Some of them played today, where I had gone to Peru a few years ago. So we have little items that match the pictures, that match the cards. So it's just a nice way for them to have fun and learn at the same time. So I think that's pretty much all I was going to cover, but I hope that gives you an idea.
Thank you.
I'll be around for questions later.
All right.
Thank you.
Wow, that was excellent. Leslie and Juliana, thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to Goldie and Seema in Lower Elementary, and they will explain how Montessori's 5 great lessons will introduce your children to the universe and everything in it.
Please hold on the transfer to Goldie.
Yep. Okay. I seem to be having technical difficulties, which is not surprising. Hang on one second. So good evening, everybody. Okay, great. So I'm going to try to get out of this. Hang on. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself there. So I'm going to share my screen. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation that I put together on my iPad, and then that wouldn't work, and we tried to do something different, but hopefully we'll get there. And I'm going to share my screen as soon as I figure out how I'm using, and I'm not using my own computer, so that's the other issue. Here we go. And there we go. And okay. And I need to get my video off. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And okay. So, sorry, we just skipped ahead. Okay, so cosmic education is really, a lot of people talk about this as being the key to the Montessori elementary curriculum. Dr. Montessori started out working with younger children and did a lot of observation and a lot of basically scientific understanding of what younger children were all about. And then she turned her attention to this second plane of development, like Barbara was telling you about. And as a result of her scientific observational approach, she recognized the characteristics that we had already talked about in the second plane of development. The use of the imagination. This is one of the shared characteristics. Children are now able to understand the difference between fantasy and reality, and they can use their imagination in aid of understanding the past and the world around them. So when we talk about imagination, we kind of tend to think about fiction, but if you think about it, to imagine what it was like to live 1,000 years ago or even 100 years ago, really you need to use your imagination. Children are also having a growing ability to reason. They're increasingly able to think logically and scientifically. They automatically want to work together. They form pairs and groups. They're concerned with right and wrong, and Barb talked about this also, developing their moral sense and their own set of values. They want to know how the world works, and they crave to discover the reasons of things. So we may well ask, what can we do for this child who's imaginative and logical, who considers big questions and wants to do big work, and who longs to embrace the mysteries and challenges of the world? And this is part of Dr. Montessori's answer. There's a few quotes here from her. Imaginative vision is quite different from the mere perception of an object, for it has no limits. Not only can imagination travel through infinite time, it can go back through the epochs and have a vision of the earth as it was. By offering the child the story of the universe, we give him something 1,000 times more infinite and mysterious to reconstruct with his imagination, a dream that no fable can reveal. There's a picture of Dr. Montessori when she was a little bit older. And she also said, all other factors, however, sink into insignificance beside the importance of feeding the hungry intelligence and opening vast fields of knowledge to eager exploration. She had great respect for the child. She said the secret of good teaching is to regard the child's intelligence as a fertile field in which seeds may be sown, to grow under the heat of flaming imagination. These are the 5 great lessons that we already mentioned: the birth of the universe, the coming of life, coming of humans, the story of writing, and the story of numbers. Impressionistic lessons, these are given as impressionistic lessons, which are basically stories that are told to generate excitement, to generate a feeling. Let me see if I can go. Yeah, that seems to not be in here when I transferred it. Okay. And it's followed by demonstrations. Like, for example, we might, Leslie was talking about baking soda and vinegar, and we have our little volcano that we do, hands-on work by children, so they might make something, they might take something apart to see how it works, and opportunities for children to do research and further to explore the topics that interest them. So each great lesson appeals to the imagination and emotion, and that's called the impressionistic lesson. Its purpose is to awaken in the child a sense of wonder and a desire to know more. The first great lesson is the birth of the universe. It tells the story of the formation of our galaxy. It leads to the study of the solar system and planets, chemistry and the elements, the formation of stars, and the vast expanse of time between the Big Bang and the next part of our story. There's some beautiful illustrations that can accompany the story. And then we go on to the coming of life. This tells the story of the first life on our planet. It introduces the idea of Luca, life's universal common ancestor. I really want to have some buttons made up that say, thank you, Luca, just appreciating that universal common ancestor way back when. It reinforces for children the idea that we are all related to each other and we're all related to the other beings on our planet. So the timeline of life is a great work that Eleni's going to tell you more about. These are some of the panels of the timeline of life, and it starts way back with before the trilobites, with the first living things on Earth, and goes all the way up to the first humans. And along with that, we have a lot of fossils. To me, it's just mind-boggling that I can hold something that is a fossil of an animal that went extinct millions of years ago. One of these is my own trilobite that I brought in, and I just, I get very, I guess I get very nerded out by this because I'm like, wow, this is like millions of years old. This is so cool. And I think the kids think it's cool too. You'll learn more about the timeline in the upper elementary presentation. The next thing we talk about is the coming of humans and the long black line. This is not one I have in my classroom. I do have a long black line. I just kind of like the way this one photographed better. If you notice, there's a roller all the way at the end there, so this rolls out a lot further. Dr. Montessori created the long black line while she was living in India, after she heard some children talking about human beings being the culmination of creation. And the purpose was to show how long the earth existed before humans were here. The long black section represents the time from the beginning of the universe, and to the small red part at the end is the arrival of humans. And this really is a big lesson in terms of, we roll this all the way down the hall, or we roll it out outside, and the kids walk this long line. It gives them really it really gives them an idea of that length of time. Along with the coming of humans, another key lesson is this chart of the fundamental human needs, and we talk about the different material and spiritual needs that humans have, and it kind of sets a stage for our cultural study. Our needs are the same. How we meet those needs varies. The story of writing and the story of numbers are the final great lessons. We go from the universal to the specific, from an entire galaxy to our own homes. This is part of the story of numbers. Now, some of the recent research that's been done, it's kind of interesting because traditionally, we've done the story of writing and then the story of numbers, but there's been some research done and more research that has been accepted, which is positing that numbers came first and then the alphabet or then words. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. The story of writing leads to the study of writing and reading. We can explore the technology of writing over time. We can look at our language and how it changes. Children experiment with different ways of writing. The great lessons link across the curriculum to awe and inspire. The first great lesson links to chemistry, astronomy, physics, legends and tales, literature, mathematics. The second great lesson, evolution, botany, zoology, geology, chemistry, biomes. The third great lesson is evolution, biology, genetics, culture, history, the needs of humans. The story of writing, history, technology, communication, literature and poetry, culture, penmanship, and the story of numbers, of course, mathematics, history, culture, archaeology, time, and mathematical ideas. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back to that other one. And I just wanted to ask for any questions that folks might have. And I can't see you, so just talk, just speak. Nobody?
I don't have any questions, but this is great, Goldie.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stop my share. And I'm going to give Erin back the, so that we can go on. And I appreciate people coming. I think this is a wonderful way to do things because you don't have to get a babysitter. And hopefully we've got a recording of this too.
We do have a recording, and here's.
Oh, well, thank you, Goldie and Seema. And now to wrap things up, we're joining Eleni in upper elementary, who's going to demonstrate one of the great lessons using live organisms.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the upper elementary classroom. Before me, I have out our timeline of life. And you'll notice that I've set up a few examples of organisms and some of our very own classroom animals. I'm just going to tilt the screen a little bit more so you can see that. We have our friend Midnight here.
Oh, wow, it's been productive.
All right, so you've heard a bit tonight about cosmic education and how it is like this big funnel, right? We start very broad with talking about the creation of the universe and space and where Earth fits into our solar system. We work our way down to the story of numbers and the story of writing, which are very specific to us as humans and our place in our planet. So this story, or this lesson, the second great lesson, the timeline of life, really helps the students understand, in a sense of time, where we fit in and where other creatures fit in that are on our Earth. So this is personally one of my favorite lessons to give because I love the chance to get out our classroom animals and have them be part of presenting this lesson to our friends. So, life on Earth started way over here. And you'll remember from when I told the first great lesson that life on Earth started with invisible things. These things were so tiny and so small that we needed a microscope to be able to see them if we had been around during that time. And you can see the microscope because there's a little circle around these organisms that shows that they are so tiny that we cannot see them with our eyes. So, life on Earth was very small, but very impactful. It absorbed the carbon that was in the atmosphere and produced oxygen, and it made this oxygen-rich environment that allowed life on Earth to start to grow and develop. So life started to become different forms. All of these lines that come out are the different forms of life that the original blue-green algae developed into. And these things were bigger. We could see them if we had been around during that time. And you can tell from the bottom that all this life was underwater. So as we move into the Paleozoic, we've got some ages broken up. We've got the age of invertebrates. We have the age of fish, which is where we see the first scaly fish, just like our friend William, who is our beta fish. We move into the age of amphibians, like our friend Frankie the frog. And this is where we see things like large insects starting to come about, so dragonflies. And as time went on, slowly, the line of fish broke off into a line of amphibians. And that line broke off into a line of reptiles, just like our friend here, Echo, our leopard gecko. So this is where his ancestors started to make their presence on Earth known. And as we continued on, time was changing. You can tell from the bar across the top of our timeline that's changing color that things on Earth are changing. So we're moving out of the Paleozoic and into the Mesozoic. And in this time of life, our reptile friends are getting larger. But there's a small line down here that broke off and is now our mammal line. That is where our small mammals, like guinea pigs, or the ancestors of guinea pigs, started to make their presence known on Earth. Now, it's not just the animal life that's changing on Earth, but the plant life is also changing. We started with plants that were only able to survive underwater, and now we have larger land plants, one of which broke off into our flowering plants, which I have an example of one of our plants that makes flowers. So all of these things are changing throughout time. We're moving, we're growing. Life is constantly changing, growing, shrinking. And less than half of our last panel of our timeline is the Cenozoic. And that is the age of mammals. That's where mammals really start to develop and take over the earth. And in our last tiny bit over here, you're not going to be able to see it because it's such a small amount, but there is a little red line over here, and that is where we humans and our most recent ancestors started to make an appearance on Earth. But it's so tiny, all of this life happened first, and we just came in just at the end. So I like to leave this timeline out all day and allow students the chance to come and look at it. I put our animal friends away. They don't stay out all day. But the timeline stays out, and I enjoy and invite students to let me know about their personal favorite animals or creatures and when they came about in the timeline, and to share with me knowledge that they may like to add to the timeline if there are examples of animals or organisms that they think are particularly special and need to be highlighted. So thank you for coming to my lesson.
Okay, hello, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Lenny. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for coming to our first virtual family education night. And I'd also like to give a special thanks to Erin for being the behind the scenes camera person tonight. And now I'm bringing it all together for us. And now we're going to take a few minutes to answer some questions. So we're gonna let everyone become on mute and see if anyone has any questions. Everyone's on, so you can, oh, Ellen's raising her hand.
Hi, I'm just wondering if and I guess I could ask my kids this, but with COVID, do you still bring the timelines into the gym and have the kids, you know, begin to outline them on large pieces of paper and put them together? Or is that not happening this year?
They have been working more with just placing the things on the timeline. So on the blank timeline, working on placing all the pieces on there. That experience was kind of a student generated excitement last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was. When was that? 2 years ago? Calvin, was that 2 years ago? Can you not hear me? You're muted again, Ellen. But yeah, so we're using the, you know, a lot of the pieces
Go ahead.
that mimic
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
it was 2 years ago. Okay. Were you very excited about the timeline, Calvin? I saw you dancing in the background there.
Not really.
Yeah, he was.
Hey.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
No more.
Any other questions from our audience? Thank you for being here.
Wow,
We just had a comment. We loved the explanation and seeing everything happening in the classrooms. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for being here. Thank you. We're recording, so we will be able to share it with anyone who couldn't come tonight. So.
I loved the flat globe from primary, the squish. What a cool idea, Leslie.
Oh.
you're muted, Leslie.
I can't take credit for the idea, but thanks. Yeah, that's
Really cool.
thing. It is. It's fun. It's fun to smash too. I have to admit.
No doubt.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were some great examples tonight.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. If you think of any other questions after the fact, don't hesitate to email us. And thank you all for being here tonight. Oh, Katie, do you have a question?
No, just saying thank you.
Thank you for being here, everybody. All right, thanks to the teachers, and I hope everyone has a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.